For a couple of decades, the For Your Benefit show has aired here on Federal News Network. It was regular listening for anyone planning to retire someday. Host Bob Leins broadcast his final show this past Monday. Because he was such a fixture for our listeners and for those of us at the station, I didn't want Mr. Leins to get away without a final interview with me. Bob, great to have you in my studio.
Great to be here in your studio.
Now, just review for us. How many years have you been doing For Your Benefit?
How many years? I'd have to say close to 30.
But on Federal News Network, since we started about 24 years ago.
Right.
Wow. Where did you do it before that?
I would go on a radio station. And a friend, would you come on and talk about taxes? And I said, you want me to talk about taxes? How long do you expect the show to last? And I said, I'm good for about 5 or 10 minutes, but I don't think I could do an hour. And that's how I got into it. Actually, I learned how to stand on my feet and talk in front of a group of more than one. And it was my boss in the 70s, hot-tempered Irishman. But if you got beyond the tough part, he was a piece of cake. Very nice, extremely smart. And he took me out. It was a franchise firm, and we had franchises all around the country to do consulting work. So he says, we're going to do the annual tour. And I said, does that mean I have to talk or do I just carry the phone? He goes, no, you're going to talk. I didn't sleep for a month. I looked at everything I could. The first time we went out, I forget what state it was, and he looked up at me and he said, listen, you're doing pretty good. I'll see you at lunch.
Left you there in front of a crowd.
In front of a crowd.
On your own.
Yeah. And I had lunch, and I said, do I have to do this again after? He said, you should be a pro at this now. Yeah.
He knew you better than you knew yourself in some way.
Yes, he did. And
those are the best
very,
bosses.
very thankful.
And we should tell people that have been listening to the show here for 24 years at 10 o'clock on Mondays, who is Bob Leins? What's your actual job and profession?
Well, I didn't graduate at the top of my class in college. So I took a job, and it paid decent, but it wasn't particularly pretty. It was like working in a closet. But I learned things that I would have never learned otherwise, and we had some really sharp people, and I would ask, and then my boss would come out, and he said, look at this, and he'd come back and give me a brief on this. All he was doing is trying to find a way to beat me up verbally. And he says, now, next time you come in here, do better homework. And again, I'll go to the grave thanking him. And he didn't let many people in behind the fence. Somehow I got there. I don't know what it was. It certainly wasn't talking about taxes. And that's what it did. And then I said, I think I can do this. And I went to work for my friend Don Gold.
What exactly are you? You've described yourself as an accountant who doesn't like accounting.
But what I realized when I got out of school is I could do the accounting, but to me it was boring. And so I kind of looked at doing tax work. Taxes, generally speaking, there's no balance sheet. You don't have to do this or that. You should do things if they're aggressive. You can be aggressive, but you can't be overly aggressive because once that hits IRS's computers, they're going to come after you. So I can give them ideas and the like, and that's what it did. And then I went to work for my friend Don Gold, and we grew a large firm. More so from taxes than it was for the accounting, and Don liked accounting more than I did, and that's where I am.
And how did you get into the idea? What interested you in helping federal civil servants with their not just taxes, but general financial advice and life advice that you've been giving them through you and your guests all these years?
Well, when I went out on my own, I started a firm, and it's called For Your Benefit. That radio show was that, too. And that's what it did. So I would go out and talk, and then after a while, I was talking to the people at government agencies, can you do this with other people? And I go, oh, yeah, we got somebody that can do benefits. We got somebody that do tax. Somebody can do this or that. Everybody's got their own niche.
And you get a lot of feedback, too, don't you? I mean, the listeners, they write to us about you, so that you must get a lot of ideas from the listeners as to what concerns them.
That's it. So you get the feedback from that. You get the feedback from clients and the like, and just grew.
And some of your regular guests have become well-known in the market in their own right.
Oh, yeah. Well-known in the market.
Tammy Flanagan.
Tammy Flanagan, when I first met her, she just left the government. And it was just started NITP, the retirement firm. And I said, Tammy, we're going to go down to da-da-da-da. And she, like me, the first time, studied and studied and studied and studies. Well, Tammy didn't need to study. So I said to her, I said, as we go along, as I see that you got a firm grist, I'm going to be walking backwards. She goes, why? I said, because it's your show, not mine.
Yeah, so you did to her what your boss had done to you, knowing
Exactly.
she could handle it.
That was it.
What happens to the National Institute of Transition Planning?
We've got a fair number of people. Admin, probably got 10 admin people.
Sure.
And then we have the speakers. And why are the speakers there? To get clients, but they can't sell. We have a rule. You can talk, but if you try to sell, you'll be talking to yourself.
Yeah, that's the best way to sell is to not sell in some cases like that.
Create the need. Yeah.
And earlier you mentioned you weren't at the top of your class. What was the class? Where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up? Where do you come from?
Well, I'm a born and raised Wheaton kid, so people around here would know where Wheaton was.
And not Wheaton, Illinois, by the way.
Oh, no, not Wheaton, Illinois. No, Wheaton, Wheaton was, it was a nice place to grow up. Maybe not to stay, but nice place to grow up. And so I left Wheaton as quickly as I could. I got married, and I went to work for this outfit called General Business Services. That's it.
Yeah.
That's my work history.
All right.
Other than NITP.
Right, and we won't reveal your age on the air, but you're still a vigorous guy for the age that you are. And what are you going to do next?
You know what? My father was like this, and my mother. We paid no attention to age. My mother, how old are you? I don't know. And she probably didn't know. My dad, he would know, and they were smooth, and I didn't hear a lot of arguments, maybe a couple of raised voice discussions, but nothing nasty, throwing books around. And,
sure.
My dad would take us up to Wheaton High School to play football, not for the team, but, we could play as little kids, and he would do this and that. So, I grew up normal. And then I graduated from school, and I went to work for this place called General Business Services, and that's it. 10 years there, and then I said, I can do this. And I told my boss, I said, I think I can do this. He says, well, then why don't you? Get out.
Now, this coming Monday morning, of course, there will be no For Your Benefit show.
Yeah.
What will you do when you get up on Monday morning now?
I'll read the paper. I'll figure out, if somebody had emailed me with a question, and then I'd go to work. And, maybe there wasn't a lot to do, but it was better than sitting at home.
But what are you going to do now on Monday mornings? Every morning?
That's a good question. It's an unknown, but it'll have something to do with something other than accounting.
Sure.
I like taxes, but I never liked accounting.
But you don't make Lego ships, or you don't pin butterflies on boards, or paint pictures of vases of flowers?
No. Whatever, suits me for the day. Somebody will call up and say, hey, you want to go out and have lunch? Okay. Or somebody else will say, you want to go out and shoot hoops? And I go, okay. So, it's that kind of stuff.
Bob Leins has been the host of For Your Benefit, Monday mornings here on Federal News Network for 24 years. Great having you in, and good luck.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Bob Leins was host of For Your Benefit here on Federal News Network for 24 years. We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.